Today we will discuss about media. First, what is media? And what is communication? Basically, communication is a process of sending and receiving information. Right? I right now I am a sender. I am sending some information to you, and that information is in coded language. Coded language means that we have some written language and we know what is the meaning of the said word, right? So this is how we communicate. So the thing I am saying to you is in a coded language. What I am right now, I'm speaking in English. English has certain alphabets. We add all the alphabets and we make words, and each word has some specific meaning. So this is coded language. If you don't know this language, you will not be able to understand this. So it means you will have to decode this language. Getting my point? So as a sender, I am sending a message in a coded language, and as a receiver, you are getting this message and you are decoding this message. Why you decode the message? To receive the information. So this is the whole technical process of communication is, right? So communication is a process of sending and receiving information. That's why we say that communication is a process, right? So why we do this? Question is why we do this? Why we communicate?
To
Right?
exchange our thoughts and messages,
Yeah. Yes. Right. And why we exchange our thought? We exchange
to
our
express
thought
ourselves,
for
to
basically
express ourselves.
three reasons. Right? To maintain, to develop, and to improve human relationship. This is the reason why we communicate, right? Because we want to maintain our social relationship, and it is not about a relationship with human beings. It is a relationship with nature, relationship with surroundings, overall relationship of human beings to this world, right? So we want to maintain that relationship first. Further, we want to develop that relationship. Think about the people who used to live in caves, and slowly and slowly we developed our relationship with nature, and now we are living in a metropolitan cities, and I am talking to you through electromagnetic channels. So how we are able to improve or to develop? Because this is why we started communicating to each other, because we want to develop our relationship and also to improve our relations. So this is the basic criteria of communication, right? So in short, we can say that communication is a process of sending and receiving information, and it is a vehicle through which we maintain, develop, and improve human relationships, right? Dennis McQuill, one of the known scholar of media, you people might not know him because he is a media scholar. And Dennis McQuill defines communication is a process which increases commonality. Commonality, what is commonality? There are certain common things among us. That's why we are communicating to each other, right? And communication increases that commonality. It means there are various areas which we are not knowing. For example, there may be some tribal groups living in a dense forest. We might not know about them. What it means that there is a lack of commonality between us and between the tribal community. What communication will do? Communication will increase the commonality. It means if we start communicating with that tribal group, what will happen? We will start understanding them, and they will also start understanding them. And how it will be possible? Because through communication, commonality will increase. It means there will be common things among us which will be understood by each other. right? So this is this definition given by Dennis Maxwell. So how we do communication? Communication is transmission of information, and how we do this? We through sharing information, through sharing of idea, through it is an sharing of attitude also, right? So in short, it is an understanding. Basically, we do communicate. We communicate because we want to increase our understanding to each other, understanding to the society, understanding to the fellow human beings, understanding to this nature. So this is how overall. This is why we communicate. Now, need for communication. What is the need for communication? This is the uh, second thing, and we must acknowledge this thing that communication is a basic need of living beings, right? It is basic need. It is like food. It is like shelter. It is like clothes. Because if you don't communicate, if you cannot communicate, it is like dividing you from your basic need. That's why criminals are put in a cell, because they are devoid of their this basic need. They are not allowed to communicate, and if they are not allowed to communicate, this is a very disturbing to them, right? So this is a punishment to them, right? So that's why they are devoid of communication. So communication is a basic need of living being. But what is difference between our communication and communication being done by animals and birds? Because they also communicate, and they also communicate through their own way, right? They keep it is said about elephant that elephants can communicate uh, far from 10 kilometers away. If they are away 10 kilometers away from their herd, they can communicate to each other through thumping the ground, right? So they also communicate. So what is the difference between our communication and their communication? Our communication is a sophisticated way of communication. We are intelligent living beings. Humans are intelligent living beings, and that's why we have developed a sophisticated kind of communication, right? And uh, in modern age mass communication, what happened? Communication became an integral part of life. Even today, we want newspaper, we want radio, we want television, we are on social media. Why we do such kind of things? Because we want to get information as much as we can. We search for information like food, right? So why we do this? Because if we would not be able to do uh, such kind of activity, if we would not be able to know whether we are safe or in danger, if we don't communicate, for our safety, for our improvement of life, to maintain our lifestyle, to develop, to all these things which we have discussed earlier, right? That's why we communicate, right? And the history of communication you can trace in prehistorical period, when our ancestors used to communicate just like animals. And if you want to know our ancestral lineage, you will first known human being, human like creature, was Australopithecus. Australopithecus, and in India it is called Ramapithecus. It is a nomenclature, they were given a name. So first known human like creature was Australopithecus, which was found in African continent, and at the same time same kind of species were found in India, and that were named as Ramapithecus, right?
So where in India?
In Narmada Valley, where we found their remains, right? And it started happening, uh, I mean, uh, uh, 3 lakh BC earlier, right? 3 lakh BC. where we found that Ramapithecus and Australopithecus, we used to find their remains, right? And this was the time when our ancestors, because our ancestors were just like chimpanzees, right? And this was the time when some biological changes started taking place in human body, because we started developing round brain, we started developing a spinal cord to support our round shaped head, right? And when you have round shape of head, it means that your brain size will be big. And when your brain size will be big, what will happen? Your intellectual capacity will increase, right? So these are some development of round brain, spinal cord support round shaped head, our brain capacity increased, and we started thinking about different things. We became little bit more intelligent than other animals, right? So this was the period when our some changes started taking place in our body, right? After that, when we find during 9000 BC, because 3 lakh BC to 9000 BC, no major changes occur. We used to live on trees, we used to gather food, we used to hunt, these kind of things we used to do. But during 9000 BC, the ability to communicate gained another medium, and this was the period when people started doing pictography. Pictography means they used to make pictures, and through pictures they started communicating to each other. And in India, the oldest pictography can be seen in Bhimbetka. Bhimbetka is a cave which is located in Madhya Pradesh,
Yes, sir. I
right?
visited that place, sir.
Okay. So there you must have seen that there is a pictography done by our ancestors, right? And that pictography is considered oldest pictography in India, because in other parts of world we also find some other pictography, because in Germany we find pictography in 35,000 BC, right? So they are much older than Bhimbetka, but it's okay. I mean, in India, this is the thing we know. We might have, I mean, in future we may know that at that time also our ancestors used to do pictography, because we have not found that thing yet. That's why this is the known thing, that is 9000 BC when our ancestors started doing pictography. And pictography is a kind of sign language, you can say, that you are making some pictures and trying to communicate. And why you are trying to communicate? You want to I mean pass the existing knowledge to your upcoming generation. And if a study was conducted on those pictographies, it was found that they were trying to communicate that which animals should be killed by uh, which weapon, right? So they were trying to educate their upcoming generation how to hunt, right? So it is not just a kind of thing that yes, they were sitting free and just they draw certain things. No, this is not like that. They were trying to communicate through those pictures, and that's why pictography is considered as language. Why? Because they were trying to develop our understanding towards nature, our understanding towards our relationships, right? So this is what they did. And when we move ahead around 3000 to 2000 BC, it started that we started making shapes and symbols. Those pictures were uh, changed into some shapes or symbols. Now they started communicating through symbols, and these symbols, this period is called Idiographic age. It means that in 3000 BC, we moved from pictography to ideography, and ideography is kind of sign. Now we write A, B, C, D. A, what is A? A is a symbol. A is a sign. I mean, through these symbols, we have made some words, and now we are able to communicate in those signs. and those symbols, right? So this happened in 3000 to 2000 BC, and this was the period of Harappan civilization in India. And they used to communicate. Their language is ideographic language, and uh, this is a. I mean, we are not able to read Harappan language yet. So many scholars or historians tried to read the language written by Harappan people, but we could not read them because there is not a single pattern which they followed. They used to use same symbols at different places. So this is very difficult to decode, and we are not able to decode that language. That's why we don't know much about Harappan civilization. Those things which have been excavated uh, from those things, and from the excavated things only, we can think about their civilization. We don't have any written uh, things through which we can understand their civilization much better, right? So this is the limitation. But yes, at least we can say that in this period, from 3000 to 2000 BC, communication pattern changed. From now people have started communicating in signs. Now pictography has moved forward, and now it has changed into ideography.
Now let us discuss about functional requirement of language and why we need a written language. There are 3-4 main reasons why we need a written language. First is a system of communication, obviously, because oral communication is one thing, but written language is also used for communication, and so we need a kind of system, and written language is one of the essential thing. So that's why first thing is that we need a system of communication. Very common thing, every species communicate, so humans also need a communication system. So this is the first thing. Second, to maintain social order. Look what happens that when people started settling down, when permanent settlement started after agriculture revolution, what happened that people started staying together. And when you stay together, then you find there are so many complexities come in your relationship. So it is very important to create a system, and you have to maintain that system for a longer period of time, so that your society may sustain for longer period. So this is the thing. The second reason is that to maintain a social order, it means you must have written regulations, you must have written systems. Your upcoming generation must know that what kind of system we have and how we have to lead our life. There are social customs, social rituals, social rules and regulations. Regulations of relationship, regulations of property. All these kind of things can be maintained when you have a written language, so that you can transfer the existing knowledge to the another upcoming generation. So this is the second reason why we need a written language. Third is to create an economic system. Obviously, because being a wanderer and just gathering food from the forest and just leading life in that way, that system does not need a kind of complex economic system. But when you start settling down and you start a trade relationship with different communities, what happens that the economic system become complex. You have to lend money, you have to trade certain things to other communities, and you have to take things from other communities, like export and import kind of things. So when this kind of system starts, you need written kind of things. Written documentation is needed. At the time of Harappan civilization, we know that Harappan people had a trade relationship with Mesopotamia and Egypt. So obviously there must be some kind of written language, and we know that Harappan people had a written language. It's different thing that we could not read that language yet, but they had a written language. So to maintaining and to creating an economic system, you need a written language, right? And last functional requirement of language is that to develop a defense system, right? You must have a knowledge about the advancement of other culture, advancement of other communities, even innovations also, that other communities may be innovating certain new things. So you need to know about all these things so that you can have your own defense system. You can develop your own defense system according to the upcoming challenges, right? So these are the four main things which are uh, necessary and which we need a language.
So after this functional income language, let us discuss a little bit about modern mass communication age, right? And modern mass communication age started after Gutenberg, invented printing press. I don't know how many of you know the name of Gutenberg. Gutenberg was the person who invented a printing press in 15th century, right? And that this invention was very important, because before that, we will discuss it in detail later on, but I'm just giving you a little bit overview, and that before 15th century, before the invention of printing press, the communication was done as a wall painting, pictography, or on animal's skin. Somewhere we find that it is written on ताम्रपत्र, ये सब भी आप लोग देखते होंगे कि these kind of communication, even they were used to write on leaves, right? So this is how they used to communicate to each other, but that kind of communication was very limited. After that, we find that in 15th century, when printing press was invented by Gutenberg, printing became very fast, because before that, writing was done by hand, and the purpose was very individualistic kind of, because by hand you cannot make written language as a mass communication medium. You need some machine who can quantify the written language into many copies, so that you can distribute it to among masses, and then it can become mass communication, right? So before the invention of printing press, it was very much elite kind of system, where king or emperor may have some people who can write things, who can inform the thing, who can keep record, but the use of communication or written language was elite in nature, right? Some elite people of the society might have using that language or written language, but it cannot be a mass communication then, right? For making it a mass communication, first thing which is required is that you need some product, you need a machine who can which can make many copy of that document, and so that it can be distributed. This is the first thing. Second thing is that communication should be done in the language of common people, right? Take the example of even in European countries also, Latin was considered as the language of elite, because common people never knew Latin. They don't speak in Latin. Similar thing you can see in India. Sanskrit is a language of elite people. Common people don't speak Sanskrit. And this is not the case of today's India. It is the case of ancient India also. In ancient times also, common people never spoke Sanskrit. Sanskrit was elite in nature. So if you want to communicate to mass, you have to adopt the language of mass, right? And that's why when Gutenberg invented this printing press, what he did, he started publishing Bible in local languages. Local languages for Europe is German, French. These were the local languages of Europe, and Spanish. So when he started publishing Bible in local languages, common people started reading Bible. Now they started questioning the descriptions given by Pope. Now they have started using their own mind that what is written in Bible. Right? And this is the, role of mass communication, to make people aware, to empower people. They should know that what is the reality. Right? Why others should describe the thing to them? Let them study and let them decide what is written in Bible, or what is written in Veda, and what is written in other texts. Right? So, and that's why in 15th century we will discuss that how printing press has a role in Renaissance also. Renaissance, the Hindi of Renaissance is Punarjagran. Right? I don't know how many of you know about Renaissance, which happened in 15th century in Europe. Right? And Renaissance has not taken place in India yet. Till now, Renaissance has not taken place in India. We will discuss about that thing when we will enter to that phase in detail, right? So this is the importance of printing press, that when printing press was invented, it became easy for common people to get access to those elite things. Now they can understand the thing what is written on religious texts, and now it can be provided to everybody. So this is the start of modern mass communication age. So 15th century you can consider as the age when modern mass communication started. And why it happened? Because as I told you that after the invention of printing press, use of paper machine, use of steam power, all these were used so that printing became fast, right? So further we find that in 19th century there are some other developments also, like development of major transportation system, development of telegraph, development of telephone. So all this, when the telegraph was developed, what happened that now you can get information from distant places also. A person sitting in America, now if suppose some big events happened in America, now a journalist can just telegraph it to an office in London. Now, so that's why the development of telegraph being widely used at that time as a source of breaking news. Now we have TV, and we see on TV always, every time there is a breaking news. So that is a different era, but at that time breaking means breaking, right? So telegraph was widely used at that time as a tool for providing information very fast to the other part of the world. Then development of telephone. Further we enter into the era of talking device, where we can talk to each other. People in distant places can talk to each other and provide information to each other, right? So these were further developments which also helped in expanding the reach of communication. So all this communication system was important, but as you know that telegraph, telephone, all these lack the qualities of becoming a tool of mass communication. Because if I am talking to you, if I am calling you, then I am talking to you only, right? If you will put speaker in your telephone, then also it will be heard by 2-3 people only. So telephone cannot be a medium of mass communication, because the reach of telephone is very much limited. Same thing is applicable on telegraph also. That it's okay that telegraph was used as a source of breaking news, but telegraph itself cannot be a medium of mass communication. Through telegraph you can get information, and you can then use that information for other mediums, for newspaper, for radio, for television, which has a wider reach. Newspapers can be read by many people. So that's a newspaper can be a medium of mass communication. Telegraph and telephone cannot be a medium of mass communication, right? So these two had certain limitations. Telegraph and telephone were very useful devices, but yes, they could not become a medium of mass communication. So when it started, right, in the start of 20th century, right, radio was invented, and I know you people must be knowing that who invented radio. Who invented
Marconi.
radio?
Marconi.
G. Marconi.
Marconi.
So radio was invented in 20th century. I think it is around 1924, 25. At that time, radio was invented.
1920, sir.
So radio was invented, and what happened that now through electromagnetic waves, communication can take place. And for the first time in the civilization, people had a medium of mass communication. So radio was the medium of a mass communication where you don't need to be literate. An illiterate person can also have access to information. And this is the quality of radio. Even an illiterate person can hear all those information which can be read by a learned person. Right? So radio was very important device, and that's why must be I don't know how many of you, because in our time there used to be a news bulletin from BBC which used to come at 8 o'clock, and all of them stuck to the radio to hear that BBC news. I don't know right now BBC that news is coming on radio or not, but people have several other options. So at that time, radio was the only option, right? So in the same century, in 20th century is very important century. In the same century, we find that we got ability to capture pictures also, right?
Yes, sir.
People photography can take place. People can click photograph. People also discovered ability to capture movements. So now videography can take place. So right, so these videotapes can be made. So and all these developments lead to the invention of television, and which was an audio-visual medium, where you can not only hear, you can also watch the things on television, right? People call it as an idiot box. It's a matter of debate that whether television is an idiot box or it is an information box. You people can decide. We can discuss. You can discuss among yourselves, right? So, but as far as invention is concerned, television was a great invention, right?
Yes, sir.
So, so this is what the development. I mean, from pictography to the invention of television, and right now we are in the age of internet, and now everyone has access to social media, everyone has access to internet. We are living in a age of information age. Knowledge, we have to make knowledge society, information society. This is what the new terms have emerged, and whether people are getting information from internet or what they are getting, it is another point of debate, right? But yes, it's okay that you have reached to all those information. It's up to you that what kind of information you seek and what kind of information you consume, right? So this is what the development of overall from pictography to the internet. This is our development of communication system.